The last 10 years have seen a surge in a number of ransom kidnappings in South Africa. According to crime statistics from the South African Police Service, the figure ballooned from just under 4,000 cases in 2013 to nearly 11,000 in 2021. For more on this, I'm joined by Mike Bolhuis, a special investigator into serious violent and economic crimes. Mike, good evening to you. Now, let's talk about how the incidence of kidnappings has evolved over the last decade in South Africa. Maybe we talk about one moment there are 4,000 and it jumps to about 11,000. That's a huge jump.
Yeah, it is. And not all kidnappings are reported, especially in the last couple of years, because many of the kidnappings that happen on the lower level is sorted between the criminals and those that and the family members and those that they have kidnapped. In other words, short and sweet, they have somebody, you pay the money, and they release the person. There is a bit of a decline of late in the high-profile businessmen kidnappings and overseas and neighboring countries, the citizens that has been kidnapped. But overall, kidnapping has escalated. The criminals are getting better and better at it, and unfortunately now is also kidnapping families, which is a very big concern. They would take a whole family and then drive around with them, empty their ATMs, keep them for a day or so, day or two, get family members to pay and get as much and extort as much money as possible from their family and friends, and then release them. And many times just release the family and then still take the car and chop the car and sell the car. So kidnapping in South Africa's statistics is a bit out. There are many kidnappings that aren't reported.
So if we try and attach a value to it or a number to it in terms of, are we looking at millions of rand, multi-millions of rands worth of kidnapping? What would that number be?
Well, you've got many levels of kidnapping. The one I've just described is in the mid-level. It's a quick in and out. They've also changed their tactics. They have moved away from keeping a person for a few months or 6 months or even a year and a half. Those are usually the top-level people, that is extreme wealthy businessmen. So the kidnappers would look at worth. So if they take an extremely wealthy businessman, they will take a longer time to extort as much as possible, and that could be anything between 500,000, a million, and it could be in payments over a period of time, because it's not easy to just get your hands on so much money. And many a times these family members must all stand together and put money together and pay it over time, but it can up to 5, 10, 20, much more. One of the biggest cases we've handled was about 180 million, and this was transatlantic, and it basically was a businessman that was extremely, I don't think anymore, and it was sorted amongst themselves. The police did know of this in this country, our country did know of it, but eventually there wasn't further reports on it because the kidnappers had such a hold on this family that they have actually threatened them that any more news, any more involvement of us or the police, there will be serious consequences. So the mid-level is the most committed kidnapping. That is the highest. Mid-level is where it's an opportunistic situation. They will find out which businessman, maybe somebody from a chain store or a small business, and then they will grab him when he leaves the shop or leaves his business, and they will hold him for a couple of days. And those amounts could be anything between 100,000 to, say, maybe 5 million. And they usually keep those people for a short period of time. And then you get the lower level where it's youngsters that owe drug money. This all falls under kidnapping, what I'm describing now. And the druggies will be kept, and the parents would be called and said, if you don't pay this, that, or the other, or do this, that, or the other, we won't release your son. Of those, there are many. And sometimes even the druggies or those who are involved, the lawless kids, are involved with the kidnappers. They plan this together and they extort their parents and family members. So you get many levels of kidnapping. And there's another one where you guys hear a lot, we hear a lot of, is where children aren't returned. You know, if people get divorced, there's court papers that describe exactly how things must go between the parents and the kids. And if they do not adhere to that, the one or the other parent has the right to open a case of kidnapping if the kids aren't returned.
Now, let's talk about sophistication, because you mentioned 180 million. I'd imagine that those that are trying to solicit 180 million or push that out as a ransom are highly sophisticated. But a few weeks ago, there were reports of a Wits student who was lured on the Grindr dating app. And these men, young men, I'd like to think, were demanding something in the region of 30,000 rand. Are these just chances? Is it a mix? Or are they like typical criminals? Or is it just some kidnappings or just thugs or thieves coming together and deciding, you know what, there might be an opportunity to make a bit of money in this regard?
Yes. So what is devastating in our country is that crime pays. You can commit crime and can get away with it. Secondly, we have very clearly seen, and this is a worldwide problem, that crime escalates when crime isn't dealt with on a zero tolerance level. So crime begets crime. If there's a robbery in an area or a kidnapping in the area or a cash in transit in the area that goes uninvestigated, investigated and prevented measures in place, if it's not dealt with seriously, then others will see this and see it as an opportunity to get involved and get on the bandwagon. So crime begets crime, and that's in any crime. So kidnapping in South Africa has shown that the criminals can commit these crimes and can get away with it. So other criminals that might be in another field or other kind of crime might join because they see it so lucrative. It's very easy to do. It's a quick buck, especially as I've explained, they do it now in short bursts, and they can take a couple of people over a period of time, and they rather go for smaller amounts with less risk of keeping people or a person over a period of time, get quick cash and money, live it out and come again and do it again. So this is the unfortunate thing we have in South Africa. We don't have proper preventative measures in place. We don't have proper visual policing. We don't have a proper sophisticated cybercrime, high-tech, specialized police units in place that can monitor this, grab information, have a proper information infrastructure, and further and other policing infrastructures in place that can detect and pick this up and then deal with the crime on a zero tolerance basis and prevent it. It's unfortunately not there, and the criminals know this. And the criminals are many a times the very police. We have seen of late that this extreme serious violent crime cases are committed by corrupt police, ex-policemen, security officers, etc., etc., because crime pays. And because the mindset has changed in our country. It's falling fast, it's corrupt. So why don't we just do the extra mile in crime and do the worst that we can and get involved in the worst in getting as much as possible. It's obviously all about money.
Now, Mike, let's talk about how these criminals identify their prey, for want of a better description. I mean, what are those factors that lead one individual who's worth 2 million rand being kidnapped, or a member of his family being kidnapped, versus another worth the same amount and not being befallen by the same challenge?
Yeah, the kidnappers have one rule. They won't take a guy like you or me, us for being specialist investigators and not necessarily rich, and the haves fall under the bracket of the haves. You yourself, but if you're a rich anchor, my friend, and you've got money, you must look over your shoulder because you would be a target. So that's the bottom line. The criminals target the haves, not the have-nots. Although if there's an opportunity, they will take the poorest of the poor and even extort those. And this has escalated also in South Africa because so many people has got involved in crime. So many, due to poverty and illiteracy, and due to the state of the nation. You must understand the whole mindset in this country today. I've listened to the news while you guys read it out. It's horrendous. I mean, there's sewage everywhere and there's no water available. There's corruption everywhere. There is so many corrupt police men and so many corruption in the government. This has a serious psychological and emotional effect on people, where they actually, in a way, just semi-give up and get involved in other ways and means, which is then criminal, to get money. So